Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is the Piracy Show. On today's show, we're going to talk about the Caterpillar and what I feel, what I would like to see done with the Caterpillar. If Minion was in charge of the Caterpillar, what would he do with it? 'Cause it's one thing to criticize, but it's another thing to say, okay, here's a possible solution. Here's an idea to explore. So this is what I would kind of go with if I was to say, if someone were to say, you're in charge of the Caterpillar, you're going to be the pirate Caterpillar guy, make the decisions. Here's what I would do with it. First off, the turrets on the Caterpillar, the dual mounts, no. Those are now quad mounts. That is what it's going to be. Those two turrets are going to be quad mounts. Now, those two prongs on the front end of the ship, those are going to be turned into tractor beams. Now, you might say, well, if it's supposed to be the fighting transport, okay, I'm kind of seeing the firepower, but why tractor beams? What purpose does it serve? Well, within the current physics of Star Citizen, there's a problem. There's a bit of a paradox for pirate ships like the Cutlass and the Buccaneer. And that is that just about every heavy ship can get up to a pretty high speed when it's going at full afterburn. And most of these ships, when they're plodding along through space, they're not really going to be plodding along. Like, let's say you're a pilot flying any cargo ship, you're going to be using as much speed as you possibly can to get to your destination because you're trying to be as efficient as possible. You're trying to get your cargo, get paid, keep the money flowing, and keep going. So you're not just going to be moving along at 100 to 130 or maybe even 90 meters a second. You're going to be sitting up at 700, 600, 500. You're going to be moving along at a fair pace because you want to make that money. But that also means that any pirate ship, any fighter like a Buccaneer or a Cutlass that's trying to chase you down is going to run into one very ugly problem with the current physics engine the way it is that as soon as you try to turn your ship to bring your guns to bear, as you try to move around the ship, you are going to start to slide because of your momentum, and you're going to become sort of semi out of control, and you're going to be a very easy target for defensive turrets. Now, if you just follow that ship straight from the rear, then any rearward facing turret is basically going to crush you. Also, you have another problem, which is any ship that's going at full afterburn can rotate on its central axis, so it can bring any turret to bear on you without paying a speed penalty. And that's where I think this is what I would do. This is where the Caterpillar comes in. With those two tractor beams on the front, you open up the possibility of some very interesting gameplay. So the Caterpillar moves along at 892 meters a second. That's pretty damn fast for a transport, and it's pretty ideal for this application. So let's say you've interdicted a cargo ship, or you found a cargo ship flying around in space. He's moving along. Use the Caterpillar to catch up to him. Use the Caterpillar to get in as close as possible, and then it locks onto them with the tractor beams. Now, that range on the tractor beam would be relative. It would depend on kind of real world experience. You want it to be practical, and you want it to be usable. But what happens is the Caterpillar now enters into an interesting contest with those tractor beams. It uses those tractor beams to slow the other ship down, but it has to keep moving at a certain pace to keep that ship from, let's say, ripping the Caterpillar in two, because all of a sudden it's got all this forward velocity, or it's got all this forward momentum. I'm not a physics guy, sorry, but it's got this weight kind of pulling at the front of it now, trying to pull the Caterpillar ahead. So if it's trying to slow that ship down, it now runs into a problem. It doesn't want to break itself in half. So the pilot of the Caterpillar now has to play a bit of a mini game where he's trying to keep his speed in the sweet spot where it's not doing any structural damage to his ship, to try and drag the ship backwards to try and slow it down. But at the same time, he's got to be balancing it to where he actually is slowing that ship down to a certain degree, so that things like Cutlasses and Buccaneers can have a much easier time, swarming that target once the Caterpillar has begun to slow them down. you don't want to go too fast and, you know, let them speed up and make things more difficult for your other ships, but at the same time you don't want to go too slow and risk damaging your own ship. So it becomes kind of an interesting contest. And then the Caterpillar's turret gunner, probably the top or the bottom depending on which way the ships are aligned, is going to have to deal with any rearward facing turrets on that ship. So it kind of makes it a bit of an interesting contest, a bit of skill and a bit of ingenuity. Both pilots now are kind of getting into a situation where, you know, they're playing against each other. The outcome is by no means guaranteed. It becomes a contest of skill, and I think that's what would make it really interesting. That's what makes, I think, really worthwhile gameplay. A lot of people will kind of go like, oh, no, you know, I just want the Caterpillar to have 6 guns or 8 guns on the turret, and I just want it to rip up my enemies and so I can just take their cargo and ha. I think that the best gameplay comes not so much from something being overpowered, but from the contest being interesting, from the contest being fair and close. When it's a clean sweep, when it's a wipeout, it's not really that interesting to watch. But when it's a real challenge, a real contest of skill, where both competitors are very closely and evenly matched, it becomes a lot more entertaining to play, or even to watch. And I think that that's kind of the problem with the Caterpillar as it's currently envisioned, as it's currently being built out and, you know, kind of realized within the universe, is the Caterpillar seems to almost be relegated to the role of loot bitch. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, the Caterpillar is more of a command and control ship and just kind of sits out there where it's safe, and then once they've captured the ship, the Caterpillar comes in and goes, okay guys, I'm gonna take the loot now. All right, and they're like, all right, loot bitch, thanks for showing up. And it's like, no problem guys, thanks for bringing me along. Like, you don't want to be that guy in a fleet battle, you know? You don't want to be that dude. You want to play a significant role. And I think that if you did something like this with the Caterpillar, then all of a sudden the Caterpillar becomes really interesting ship to fly. Now, when you look at it and you look at the price tag attached to it, you know, $295 price tag attached to it, it all of a sudden, it becomes like a cool ship. It becomes an interesting ship. It's kind of like a fast fighting transport. It has a role. This is the reason why pirates like it. This is what it can do. All of a sudden, it plays a much more interesting role, because apart from that, I mean, if you look at other ships, I mean, you can get cargo capacity on a reclaimer, and you also have the ability to salvage ships, which could add value to a pirate op. So the reclaimer all of a sudden becomes a really interesting ship, and it has tractor beams and a giant claw as well. So what makes pirates, you know, in the lore, you know, it's one thing to write a lore article and say, oh, well, you know, this ship is like this. Okay, but why? Why do pirates like the Caterpillar? Why do so many pirates want the Caterpillar in their fleets? I mean, we've always heard about this. Has always been the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, everybody, it's just a salvage and search and rescue ship. It's not for piracy, you know. You know what I mean? But it's always been kind of built this way. Now, all of a sudden, you have a reason to like it as a pirate ship. You have a reason to want to bring it to the battle, other than just like, oh, well, got to bring a loot bitch along. It's like, thanks, guys. Thanks for bringing me. I really appreciate this opportunity to fly with you guys. It's really great. You don't want to be that guy. You want to have a serious role. You want to have an impact. And I think this gives the Caterpillar that capacity. And of course, the added bonus of, let's say you're hanging out at Grim Hex or some other pirate haven, and you see some Caterpillar come back with the nose ripped off of it, and you're like, oh, yeah, he sucks. He needs to fly the tutorial mission again. You know what I mean? I don't know. To me, like, if CIG were to come to me and say, okay, smart guy, you know, you talk all this shit, why don't you tell us what to do with the Caterpillar? I'd be like, that's what you do with the Caterpillar right there. That's how you make it interesting. That's how you make it worthwhile. And that's how you give it a role within a pirate fleet. And that's how you make it the raid commander. That's how you make it the fighting transport. That's what I would do. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.